Yeah. So as you may or may not know, I am previously in my previous life a data guy. So I would help corporations leverage data, and I would always explain, that data's exploding right now, right? With all the new ways that we capture data online and through all these IoT devices, there's an exponential growth of data. And the primary way that we store data today is using cloud storage providers like Google, Microsoft. We use Amazon, but then we also use Dropbox, for example. And so Filecoin is a decentralized storage system. So it essentially allows people to rent out their hard drive space. So instead of having these big data centers, you can essentially leverage all these unused storage devices, right? It's kind of like, you can think about it like Airbnb, right? For data. So instead of having like these huge hotels, you could say like those are analogous to data centers. You have now people that can rent out their hard drive space. So it's kind of democratizing, and it's basically creating a lot more efficiency, because now instead of having these centralized data centers, you can essentially leverage all this unused space that's just sitting there, right? I mean, I know that I have a terabyte on my computer, and I only use a very small part of it. So this also has advantages beyond being more efficient. There's security advantages, right? We've heard the stories of these large companies going down, right? And then you can't access your files. That's very disruptive. So there's a single point of failure, right, when you don't do this decentralized model. So this helps solve that problem. And then it just gives less power, to the big tech companies as well. But yeah, overall, because there's such an explosion of data, I mean, we need to be efficient with how we store data.
Okay, but then isn't that, because what's your backup? Like if I rent out, for example, your space for my data, and your space goes down, then what's my backup?
Well, that's built into the system. So there's going to be redundancy, and there's basically the files are encrypted and then they're split up into segments. So I believe that even though it's still early in the project, long term, I believe those problems will be solved. Yeah.
But for now, would you recommend actually trying this out, even with the critical set of data, or would you rather?
Yeah. So I know that it's already been proven with some projects. I forget what it was. It's like a National Archive of Photography, I think, tried to use it with a certain amount of photos being stored on there, and it worked. I personally wouldn't trust it yet with very sensitive data. I want to give it time to grow, but I would invest in it because it's a very it's a noble concept, right?
It's a unique proposition.
It's a unique proposition, and it's going to take time, I think, to succeed, and take time to overtake, the cloud storage providers, right? But yeah, I think it's it's a really worthwhile concept because of the growth of data that we have.